Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Monday, May 26th, 2025, and the impact of the temporary foreign workers program on Canadian-born workers and wages. We're going to look at that. Table Salt breaks it down. She's got some information I thought was interesting, and I thought I'll share that with you. House is back today, so the House of Commons reconvenes today. The speech from the throne will happen tomorrow, so that's interesting. King Charles III is already here, and he will be delivering his speech from the throne tomorrow, so that we'll see how that all goes. I'm expecting for NDP to cross the floor to give the Liberals a sitting majority because they're so inspired by the WEF king. Maybe. We'll see. Libs don't pass their Reform Act, and this would allow them to remove Mark Carney. They say, no, that's okay. That other guy worked out so well. Trouble in France. Macron gets slapped. They're getting off a plane, and Macron gets fully slapped by his, Right. And Poilievre says he'll work with the government to make Canada an energy superpower. Both Poilievre and Carney addressed their caucuses yesterday. And I thought, it was interesting. Carney's speech was what you would expect, really. And Poilievre's was also what you would expect. And they both clocked in fairly short. Poilievre's was a little bit longer. Neither was very meaty. Neither mentioned censorship. I will be honestly shit shocked if we don't see a censorship bill in the first couple of weeks. I will be shocked. My jaw will be on the floor. I think that that's the first priority, that they want to get things that passed. And I don't think they want to make a big deal of it, so they're not going to mention it. But nobody mentioned it, and we'll see. Carney mentioned it on the campaign trail. Galbo's mentioned it on the campaign trail, but nobody's mentioned it as far as legislature or bills or anything like that to be brought forward. People are saying they're going to just bring back Bill C-63, I think it was, and just have that come back through. And I think that they have to soften it in order to get it passed. But I think once you get the door open, then that's it. Then they've basically won. It's just a matter of opening the door more. And again, I think they're going to use anti-Semitism to try and backdoor the speech stuff, regardless of the laws that are already on the books. They're going to use that to get the public on board with it, because I don't think the public are on board with internet censorship. So they're going to say, we need it because of anti-Semitism. And then when anti-Semitism works, they open the door more with Islamophobia, and then all bets are off. Everything's open after that. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. The statements from the two leaders. Mark is highlighting this 36 seconds from Pierre Poilievre's thing, and he says Poilievre just put Mark Carney and the Liberals on notice. The Conservatives will approve everything needed to make Canada an energy superpower. If they're serious, let's go. All approved right now. If they're not, Canadians will know exactly who's in the way. Checkmate. So here's that part of the speech.
It's not enough to say you want to build.
It's kind of quiet.
The laws, taxes, and rules that stand in the way. And that's why Conservatives are proposing practical and real removal of obstacles. End the industrial carbon tax, the energy caps, the electric vehicle mandates, the no new pipelines law, the West Coast shipping ban, and more. If the government agrees to these changes, we will move as early as the spring to pass them all. They have our word. Let's remove the obstacles. Let's harvest our resources. Let's make Canada truly independent.
So, and it's weird what happened, because they did a sound check. Okay, so that was quiet. You heard that it was quiet. I had to turn it way up, and I'm sorry that I wasn't fast enough, but it was quiet, and that's weird, right? Didn't they do a sound check? Yeah, they sure did do a sound check, and I'll show you where it changes. So here's the guy at the beginning, and I've turned my sound down so it shouldn't blow your speakers, but here's the guy at the beginning of the Conservative leader's statement, and he's doing a sound check, and he says, we all good?
Okay, thanks everybody. Merci tout le monde. We have to start, before we do anything else, with a couple of routine items. We have to make sure, first of all, that the mic level here is good. So now, who is confirming that for me? Matt, I saw you earlier. Seem okay from your perspective? It's all good from the media's perspective? Good from the perspective of folks in the room? Okay, good. All right.
So he does a whole mic check.
Now,
and then Pierre Poilievre is out there, and at about 9:20, it goes quiet, right when he's talking about policies that they agree with, et cetera, et cetera. Why would that happen? Why do you think? I don't know. I just wanted to show you this.
let's be clear. He said that it would raise $20 billion this year alone, and he published that in a platform released after he had quietly eliminated most of those tariffs. So how is he going to make up the money? And why did he put his elbows down when he said they were up? Look, despite the Prime Minister's doublespeak, we will work, as I said, to help him try and get a trade deal to put an end to the tariffs. But we also need to focus on making our own economy more independent and self-reliant so that we're no longer vulnerable to such international surprises. That means unleashing our industry and its mighty workers to make things here for ourselves and for overseas markets. It's not enough to say you want to build.
So
the government.
I got the timeline wrong, but you can hear the difference. It was 9:48. I thought it was 9:18. So sorry about that. But you can hear the difference before and after. And I wish I could show you so I've got a sound levels thing, and the sound level was right up at the yellow. So it was not red lining, it was yellow lining, but it was near perfect where they had it. And then it dropped to almost half that. And that's where it stayed. Right now it's almost minus 40, minus 35. You can't hear them. Why would they do this? Who sabotaged this? What is going on, right?
The industrial carbon tax, the energy caps, the
You can't hear him.
mandates, the no new pipelines law.
And then it comes back
The West Coast
when he's all done this.
and more. If the government agrees to these changes, we will move as early as the spring to pass them all. They have our word. Let's remove the obstacles. Let's harvest our resources. Let's make Canada truly independent.
Okay, so they quieted him down when he said, we'll work with them, we'll make Canada an energy superpower. Why would they do that? This is the official CPAC feed. You can check the link in the description if you're interested, but it's right there too. It happened yesterday, right? Pierre Poilievre addresses Conservative caucus May 25th, 9:50 to 10:33. A very important 40 odd seconds. Why would they silence him? What are they doing? Very interesting if you ask me. I have no idea what they're doing. And so it's very concerning, right? Here is Mark Carney with a Build Back Better. So right at the end of his thing, he goes back and forth in French and English. And I think this is queued up correctly, but things move around sometimes on me. He's been talking about how, we're going to be busy. We're going to be super busy putting Canada back on the right track and so on and so forth. And here he is kind of wrapping up with the caucus. Here you go.
It's my solemn commitment to work with all of you to seize this moment for Canadians, to build big, to build bold, to build together, to build now. Let's get to work. Que la fête commence. Merci beaucoup.
Did you catch it? Did you catch that Build Back Better in not so many words? Very, very interesting. And so Mark Carney is talking about how they're going to be very busy because, well, here, I'll just play a little bit of the beginning of this here. I think it'll be around here. He's clapping.
This is the room. This is the room. Nope. This is real work. This is real work. This is the room that won our party a strong mandate at the most crucial time in our nation's history. 8.6 million votes. Who's counting? 8.6 million votes. The largest, the most votes in Canadian history. The largest.
I should have queued it up better. But anyway, he talks about how they're going to be busy and so on and so forth. And rigged elections have consequences, unfortunately. Here's the royal family, and they say later today, their majesties will arrive in Ottawa, Canada. Take a look back at some of their previous visits to the country. The then Princess of Wales gets crowds on Parliament Hill in Ottawa in 1957. Their majesties in Bridges, Newfoundland and Labrador during the first visit, and so on and so forth. I am not excited about this at all. King Charles and Prince William and all of the royal family have indicated their tight ties to the WEF and allegiance to that whole ideology. And King Charles coming here after the election and what's happened to have us all fangirl and say, oh my gosh, King Charles, like, sorry, man, I don't care. And we should probably do away with all of this and firm up our sovereignty in the face of what's going on, right? I don't know. There's a lot of issues, and this pageantry is not going to solve the problem. So I just think it's weird. but we're going to live through it. Here we go. Here's the food professor. He says, here's my list of things that I want to see in the throne speech tomorrow. Food professor says, a throne speech agenda for Canada's agri-food sector. Here's my wish list for tomorrow. National agri-food competitiveness strategy. Reform supply management and eliminate all interprovincial trade barriers. Major investment in R&D and agri-tech hubs. Legislation to protect food supply chains. Real support for climate-smart farming. More carrot, less stick. We could just do away with all of the climate anything to do with government at all, period. Keep out of it because it's a communist hoax. Thanks very much. Enforceable grocery code of conduct. No thanks. No thanks. Smarter trade and tariff reform. Boost domestic food processing capacity. Yeah, probably a good idea. Stop corporate welfare. Make Farm Credit Canada more risk-focused. Fight food inflation with transparency, not scapegoats. Time to stop managing decline. Let's help Canada grow. Yeah, well, that would be nice. I don't think that they have any incentives to do that. The WEF are trying to bring us down, are trying to lower our standards of living. And we're watching that happen in Australia, and we're watching it happen in England, and we're watching it happen in other countries as well, Ireland, to name a few. And so it's one of those things where they can say all of these things, but the actions don't match their words, and that's frustrating. Andrew Coyne is talking about how the Liberals, National News Watch says the Liberals decide not to give themselves the power to vote Carney out down the line. And Andrew Coyne laughs and says, those frightened little rabbits, there was no way they were going to do it without a secret ballot. Andrew Coyne's a Liberal. Like, he's a Liberal through and through. He was campaigning against Poilievre, calling him dangerous and so on and so forth. And now he's pointing at the Liberals who are refusing to act in their own self-interest, although maybe not having the power to remove their leader is acting in their own self-interest, because then they can claim they can't do anything, right? Oh no, our party works such that we can't remove him, so I guess we just have to listen to him, which is what they did during Justin Trudeau's tenure, right? But Coyne laughing at this in this way pretends that he's not firmly in the Liberal ranks, and he is. Like, he's a Liberal through and through. Epoch Times is reporting Liberals vote against adopting measure that allows caucus to remove their leader. So this goes a little bit more in depth if you're interested in that. And fundamentally, these people don't work for us. And so why should we be surprised when they throw up barriers to their own accountability or their ability to hold their leader to account? Why? I'm not surprised that they're doing this. The only thing that I'm surprised about is that Canadians are tolerating it so well, right? Everybody's just, it's okay. But then so are Americans, right? Tolerating all this madness very well. Mark Carney says the death of a teacher and 4 students from Friday's car crash in Walkerton is heartbreaking. This is an unimaginable loss, one that no family, no classmate, no school should ever have to endure. Canadians are holding the Walkerton community in our hearts. And so fake Mark Carney says, my government still hasn't taken action after an Indian immigrant killed a busload of Canadian hockey players years ago, but will keep pretending to be sad while opening the floodgates. Right, so everybody was Humboldt strong, but nobody did a damn thing about it at all, right? And this bears resemblance to people in England doing a GoFundMe or fundraiser for, Holly, the woman who was Lucy something, and I can't remember her last name, but I apologize. I've got a tab about her later, but they paid her money and said, we're real sorry about the circumstances that led to this. Here's some money because we feel real bad about it. But nobody's dealing with the crux of the problem. Nobody's going back to the crux of the problem and saying, we don't want our citizens put in jail for social media posts. Stop it, government. You should stop that. No, we'll just give people money for when the government does things that we don't like. Weird. Like, it's just a weird reaction. People feel like they can't control the government, and rightly so, because we can't, apparently. But it just seems strange that in response to that, they find small ways to have control while allowing the problem to fester longer, right? It's like moving out of your house into your garage because a homeless person took over your house. And you're like, no, I don't mind at all. I can still stay on the property. It's like, no, I don't think so. I think that's a real big problem. Huge problem, right? So, my gosh, it's very interesting how we can pretend to be sad about things, but avoid dealing with the actual problem. Strange. Juno News says a leading Canadian food researcher is raising the alarm over misleading Made in Canada labels appearing on products that don't and can't grow in Canada. So that's weird, right? Canada doesn't grow navel oranges and certainly not California natural walnuts, yet here we are. Charlebet wrote, many readers have sent me similar photos lately. The maple washing continues, a clear misrepresentation of the origin that misleads consumers. Charlebois followed up with another post on May 21st showing photos taken at an Atlantic Canada superstore where navel oranges were labeled from Canada with a maple leaf icon and priced at $8 for a 3-pound bag. After a customer alerted management to the issue, the maple leaf label was removed and the price dropped by 12.5%. Another classic move from our grocers, Charlebois wrote. The issue highlights a growing trend in Canadian grocery stores raising prices while leaving on patriotic branding to encourage buying locally amid heightened trade tensions with the United States. So that's interesting that these things are happening. Somebody was also saying that they'll misweigh the beef. They'll weigh the beef with the package included, and then when you weigh the meat has a different price than what you paid for, and they're not allowed to do that. So somebody was saying that they haven't paid for meat in years because of this, because of what the grocery stores do. And so I thought, wow, that's commitment. That is absolute commitment. I was also watching an Alex Hermosi interview about grain-fed beef, like boxed grain-fed beef, but then connecting that up with if your animals, because basically he's a grocery store that just sells high-end beef, right? But then if you are buying from farms that have insured animals, the insured animals have to be given injections. So what about a similar box? Anyway, what about a similar box that's actually grain-fed and no anything else, no injections, no nothing. Anyway, I find all of the mislabeling and even kind of massage labeling of things very interesting, because you think you're buying one thing and you're buying something else. And I don't know if you've noticed, but nothing goes rotten anymore. Either they've moved the best before date up so much that there's that you can use it weeks after its best by date, or there's something in the food that is not letting it actually rot anymore. It's really strange. I had hell of a dip, and I think I'm moving to sour cream and pouring it in little things from the farmer's market where you can make a sour cream based dip or whatever. But I had hell of a dip, and the hell of a dip was in the fridge and I forgot about it. It was behind something and I pulled it out and I was like, oh great, we have hell of a dip. But like I ran out. I can't believe I ran out, but oh well, I've got hell of a dip here. And I opened it up and it looked fine. You have to stir it sometimes because it looks kind of weird, but it looked fine. And I stirred it and then I looked at the date and it was like 3 months over. And I smelled it and I was like, that still smells fine. I didn't eat it. I was like, nope, not having it. But it's weird, right? It's weird. Cream cheese. I had a thing of cream cheese that was similarly expired. My fridge hides things on me and I don't eat it very often. I eat butter mostly. But anyway, I found this cream cheese and it all turned like a different color. And I thought, wow, that's gross. And I threw it out. But hell of a dip? Nope, it didn't turn. Weird. Very, very strange. It felt like a McDonald's hamburger. I was looking at a years old McDonald's hamburger. Weird. Anyway, no farmers, no food says hundreds of farm shops are at risk of closing down as owners continue to be hammered by the impact of Rachel Reeves' tax rating budget. Thousands of jobs at risk and as many as 700, 1 in 2 could shut down. Absolutely horrendous. So the other day I showed you how much tax the government makes on barley that they tax the farmers for, and the unfair taxing practices, and they're trying to crack down on farm shops and things like that. And it's very interesting because they're impacting farm work while at the same time making a lot of money off of the products on a farm. So it's a very interesting catch-22. And I think that we are moving into kind of a situation like what the United Kingdom is experiencing now with overregulation and problems that way, right? So it's not good. It's a very, very concerning situation. And we see how this is negatively impacting England. And we're here, but I mean, King Charles is here giving a speech with Mark Carney. So people are sharing ideas and things like that. But we're not even the problems that are happening in Canada because of the bad policy of the last 10 years. We just enthusiastically voted to restore those people back to power, apparently, right? And everybody's kind of okay with it, right? We're getting back to government tomorrow. So it's a very interesting situation because we can see the problem, but we're not doing anything to solve it, right? Maybe somebody else started GoFundMe. That'll be a good idea. Greg says most, if not all, governments exist to facilitate the will of a small international conglomerate of unelected, unaccountable, and even largely unknown individuals and organizations that have an incredible amount of wealth, power, and influence. Taxpayers get no say whatsoever in determining how and where and when these undertakings occur. Our elected government members and officials take our hard-earned money by threat of force to fund the implementation of these agendas while paying themselves large amounts of taxpayer money to do it. We are being looted. I work 12-hour shifts, days and nights, only to have a sizable percentage taken from me. Not one single MP in Ottawa deserves their salary, position, or authority. They take our money, use it against us, and pay themselves to do it with the money they've taken. Surely we can do better than this. We must do better than this. This is unacceptable and unsustainable. If you're done with being taken advantage of by people who pretend to represent you, share this because it's time for some big changes. And stuff like that doesn't get a big reach because I'm pretty sure Twitter, etc., does a whole bunch of managing that kind of stuff, right? Here's Table Salt, and they say modern day slavery, the entire work permit system is supposed to ensure that immigrants are brought in only to fill labor market gaps and not to suppress wages. But this Bank of Canada data suggests they most are making 30% less than Canadian-born workers. And so that's a problem. And if most are making less than Canadian-born workers, it means they're undercutting Canadian workers and suppressing or keeping wages low because they're here delivering product, which is work, at a reduced rate. And this happens because we were talking about it yesterday, having job ads that say, certain language specializations, et cetera, are necessary. And then all of a sudden you're making some kind of reduced wage and or subsidized by the government and or both, right? And it's a very, very interesting situation because it seems like the Canadian government is using our tax dollars to benefit and enrich anybody but Canadians at our expense. Why? Why would they do that to their citizens, right? If they like us at all, why would they do that to us? It's an insane thing to do. Really, it's crazy. The food professor says, I'm going to have to cut the stream early today because I think that the show is going to be medium short. And I think we're going to get to 40 minutes, but I don't want to do a 30-minute show. Anyway, it's one of those things. But I'm going to do this tab and then I'll cut off the stream today. So the food professor says, with the exception of citrus, coffee, tea, alcohol, and supply managed related tariffs, which have been in place for decades, most food-related tariffs have now been suspended since May 7th. Grocers should not be using tariffs as an excuse to increase prices. This is Mark Carney's inconvenient truth. He campaigned as a staunch opponent of Trump, yet quietly suspended many tariffs during the election without a mandate and without saying a word himself, likely to avoid upsetting the elbows-up crowd. For Carney and for Canada's food security, it was the right decision. But if you see academics or commentators on social media denying this happened, it simply means they're being partisan, full stop. So yeah, Carney lied, and he is a person who is just fine with that, like absolutely just fine with that. And it seems strange that, again, not being held accountable, absolutely not being held accountable. Okay, we'll do one more because I find this funny, not funny, like scary and bad, and we should do something about it. The Ukrainian stuff is pretty wild too. They were trying to assassinate Putin, but Trump's mad. Anyway, sorry, we'll get back to this. Eva Chipik says, weird, X support. I know X has been having difficulties these last few days, but it's clear my account has been suppressed or for some time. Today, I looked at my profile from another account. It showed that my last post was from 5 days ago. I just posted 2 things this morning. Can anyone confirm and send a screenshot? I was charged for my Premium Plus account yesterday, but this does not feel like a premium experience. Many accounts, especially those discussing vaccine concerns, appear to be suppressed. This must stop. Those injured are suffering in silence. We need accountability and justice. Yeah, it's a situation too where I look at this and I have a couple of people message me, regularly, and like not a couple of people consistently, like 1 or 2 people a week message me saying, hey, have you stopped posting? Or, hey, do you post your show anymore? And I'm like, yeah, it's posted everywhere here. And they say, oh yeah, I was just looking on X and I didn't see anything. I see it now on Rumble or something like that. I should have just looked there first. Those are the conversations that I have. And I think, okay. And I pin every new day because sometimes I forget to change the title because I'm just a forgetful kind of guy sometimes. So I forget the title and I try and pin it every day so people can see the new show. And still people have a hard time finding the show on X, even if they're looking for it. So if people aren't looking for it, imagine if people who are looking for it have a hard time finding it, imagine how difficult it is for people who don't know I exist to find me, right? Like, so it's very, very interesting, the censorship going on. And it's not just me, it's all the way up to Eva Chipik and other people. And I mean, Eva Chipik had a smaller account than me for a while. And now she's got 104,000 followers. So, I mean, great for her, but it's very interesting. Even bigger accounts are getting censored. How does this all wind up, right? Is the internet going to have to be shut down for freedom of speech to apply again? And then if the internet's shut down, I mean, like, that's democratization of speech to a degree, because nobody has the monopoly on the ability to broadcast, right? Anybody can broadcast. And so then it becomes, how do you gain the attention of the masses? And if you're suppressed, like my show doesn't get more than 250 views. As soon as my show gets around 250 views, there's a throttle mechanism that kicks in. And so anything up and above 250 is somehow organic. Somebody's shared me or something like that. But if it's left up to the just X algorithm, 250 is my cap every day. And it's I know it's a cap because it doesn't matter how late in the day I post it, I always hit it, right? I can go back and see it. Same thing in YouTube. I can go back and scroll back. And even if I post late in the day, very quickly my views will hit my cap. And so like if I post the other day, last week, 2 weeks ago, I posted a clip, or I posted the whole show late, like 6 o'clock at night, which it should have impacted my views. By the next morning, it had a lot of views. But then I took the week off or whatever when I was on my trip, and came back. And after that, my views were all down across the board, like for the following week. So I thought that was interesting. Like I had a hard time breaking 600, but I think we're back to normal now. Anyway, I digress. It's an interesting system because it's not clean, it's messy, and they'll allow views to accumulate and then come back and take them later. Rumble cuts my paid views to a third. So it used to be half, now it's a third. But they say that people are rewatching my show on Rumble 3 times, and that's what gets my views up to 1,200. But the real view number, the raw view count, is like 400. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So they're all censoring, and they're all snakes, all of them. And I don't know if it's at the behest of the government or what, but it's not going to be healthy for democracy, because if people's ideas start to get popular, they just censor them. Like they just censor them super quick. Like that's it, censored. Okay, we got to say goodbye to the stream. Thanks everybody for watching, and we will catch up with you tomorrow. And hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful